We would like to welcome here today Jenny Otero and Andreas Bovens from Opera Software. They delivered our case study for today. And please, first of all, could you tell us something about what is the company handling? I think that everybody knows the company, but anyway, if you could tell us a few words, we'd be very grateful.
Opera Software makes web browsers. So we make browsers for desktop, of course, so Mac, Linux and PCs. But we also make browsers that work on a wide range of devices and mobile phones. So that on our idea is basically that on any device possible, on any device that has an API, we should be able to build we should be able to build a web browser on top of that. So that's what we do.
And what is the case study about?
Well, it's actually a little bit different than what engineers are used to. Many times when you're an engineer, you're given a problem and you immediately go and try to solve it. And we've seen today that engineers are not really used to think a little bit more about what is the problem that I have to solve. Instead of first thinking about the solutions, how I would like to solve it, and just focusing on that solution and make it really good. We are asking them first to focus a lot in understanding the users, because it's a user-centered process, and trying to think of what is it really this problem that I'm trying to solve. Then coming up with a lot of ideas in a brainstorm, and then create a prototype, create a example of a user experience, which happens like in a scenario. So we have explained them these different steps that you have to follow for a human-centered design process, and we have given them the task to come up with a new feature for our browser. Looking forward to their answers, and I'm sure that they're going to surprise us with a lot of creative ideas.
So do you need a lot of knowledge in the area of IT to solve this problem?
I don't think you need a lot of expertise in IT. It's mostly, well, everybody has an engineering background, so they're used to solving engineering type of problems, which is what we deal with when making a web browser. And I think the most important thing is that everybody has experience with using the internet, using a web browser, and out of that experience, I think anybody can solve this problem. Of course, in different ways, but that's the interesting aspect about this competition, so that we get some fresh ideas, some fresh looks of non-software developers on software development.
Did any of the ideas provided by the participants by now surprise you at most?
Well, it's very important that they first do a lot of observation, and they haven't yet given us the solutions. We've been very trying to push them lots into, please don't give any solutions yet. So they haven't surprised us yet with the solutions. They have surprised us with the way that they handle the problem. Different teams handle it differently and understand it in many different ways. But I'm sure the surprises will come tomorrow.
What do you consider as the most important in the whole project?
Well, the most important is that I think the thing that we're bringing most value to for these guys is that they look at engineering in a different perspective. That they understand that being a good engineer is not just about knowing all the technology, knowing all the information behind it, not about understanding everything really technically, but about thinking that these are products that are going to be used by a user, and that making products that are good for the user is a good recipe to make successful products. So I hope that with what we're giving them today, they're going to become better professionals and better engineers.
What would you say, what are the 3 qualities an engineer of the future should possess?
I think it's important that engineers don't only come from, not only have an engineering background, but also have some other interests, or maybe come from a totally different area of study. Like, for instance, myself, I did Japanese studies, so I ended up in a software company, which is quite a long way actually. I joined Opera Software Japan in the beginning, and that's how I actually got into it. And we also have other people, like, for instance, we have some people in QA who are, there's one guy who is a dancer, and so he also does QA, but he also is a professional dancer. There's somebody else who's playing flute, and so but he's also in QA and also doing a great job there. We have a developer, one of our main JavaScript developers is an architect originally, and then he turned into a JavaScript programmer. So we have got a wide range of backgrounds there, and I think that's very interesting because it gives you sort of people with very different ideas, and different points of view to work together on something. So that's very important.
That was the first. Something else that is very important is that they are able to observe, that they are able to listen, that they are able to understand very well the problem that is asked before they give the solutions. And many times it doesn't happen because you tend to think that your ideas are so cool and so fantastic that you forget that you have to listen and spend a good enough time in getting more of the information because before you really can come up with something that is great.
And the other thing, probably the third thing we think is important, is that you're passionate about what you do, about the product you make. It shouldn't be like sort of a 9-to-5 job and you try to rush out of the office as soon as possible, but there should be a sort of a passion that drives you and to make the product better and to also work together in teams and on solving issues and so on. So that's what we also think is important.
So that's what defines an Opera employee, is that right?
Well, we hope so. I think, well, a lot of the examples I already gave is from Opera employees. And I think, yeah, for a lot of people in the company, it's definitely the case. So,
yeah, especially in what you're talking about, being passionate about what we do. You can really feel it in the environment of working in Opera, that people don't mind giving that extra step, running that extra mile to solve the problem. So they don't mind staying a bit longer in the office. It's not like at 5 everybody goes and finally we finish with this, but it's more like they really can't sleep because next day they're going to work on something really fantastic. And we really believe in what we do. So but there's many very passionate fights about, no, it should be this way, that way, because everybody has a strong opinion because we really love what we're doing. So it's really motivating to work in a company where you really think that you're doing something for improving and for making the world a better place in a little bit.
So another question about 3 qualities. After spending the whole day, almost whole day here, how would you describe EBEC European Best Engineering Competition in three words?
Well, about 3 qualities is interesting because we haven't heard about the competition until actually very recently. And we didn't really know what to expect when coming here. But what we found is that these guys are very curious and they're very creative. They have a lot of ideas. They have they're really not passive, but they are very much motivated in working very hard. Very interesting people, very international, and very fun to work with them. So I'm sure we're gonna get more opinions after they have come up with the solutions, but so far it's been fantastic.
It's very nice to hear that. And how such a big company as Opera Software can benefit of supporting such an event like EBEC?
So first, it's interesting to, of course, talk to engineers about Opera and sort of introduce the product, the software, and show them what they can do. Sometimes people have heard about it, others haven't heard or didn't know so much about it. The other thing, of course, is that we are eager to hear what they think should be improved, especially, as I said, because they have non-programmers' eyes. Or so it's not the normal feedback we get from developers, but from real users and from slightly technical users, but still people who are more on the user side of the spectrum rather than the developer side, at least for browsers. So that's very interesting for us, I think. Something.
Oh yeah, and being able to help them into seeing the perspective of working in a company, of developing a product in a way that they don't usually do when they're studying engineering. I think it's very important for us because we want to form engineers that are able to make fantastic products, and maybe they want to apply and work in Opera. So if we can help them a little bit to develop these qualities, well, that's better for us.
How do you think what as a student of engineering can learn in an organization like Board of European Students of Technology?
It's like it's a good way to do some networking between countries and students with similar interests, and of course to to meet, it's an international organization, so you meet people from other places and see their viewpoints and see how it's different or the similarities. So in that exchange already, there's a lot of you can learn a lot from that, I think.
Thank you very much for your time and for your answers, and I hope you're enjoying the time here in Don Bosco, and we wish you a nice day. Thank you very much.